The final day of the RMS Titanic was shaped by weather conditions that, at first glance, seemed almost ideal, creating an atmosphere of calm, clarity, and quiet confidence that spread across both the ship and the vast, please subscribe, Atlantic Ocean surrounding it, giving passengers and crew little reason to suspect that these very conditions, which appeared so safe and peaceful, would play a significant role in one of the most well-known tragedies in history. Throughout that day, the weather remained remarkably stable, with clear skies stretching across the horizon and very little wind disturbing the surface of the ocean, creating an environment that felt predictable and controlled. For passengers, this meant a comfortable journey, one where they could enjoy the experience of being at sea without the discomfort that often came with rough weather. The gentle motion of the ship, combined with the absence of strong winds, made the voyage feel smooth and almost effortless. As the day progressed, the temperature began to drop gradually, especially as the ship moved further into colder regions of the Atlantic. This drop in temperature was noticeable, but not alarming, as cooler air at sea was not uncommon. However, this cold environment had an important effect on the water itself, contributing to conditions that would later become significant. One of the most important aspects of the weather on that day was the unusual calmness of the ocean. The surface of the water remained largely undisturbed, lacking the waves that would normally be present. While this calmness added to the sense of peace and stability, it also removed a critical visual cue that sailors relied on to identify potential hazards. In rougher conditions, waves breaking against objects such as icebergs would create visible patterns, making them easier to spot from a distance. On this day, the absence of waves meant that such patterns were not present. The clarity of the sky also played a role in shaping the conditions. With no clouds to block the view, visibility seemed excellent, allowing for long-distance observation. However, this clarity created a contrast between the bright sky and the dark ocean, particularly as night approached. Without the presence of the moon, the ocean's surface remained dark, making it more difficult to distinguish objects against it. For those on board, the weather reinforced a sense of confidence. There were no signs of storms, no sudden changes in conditions, and nothing that would suggest immediate danger. This sense of normalcy allowed passengers to continue their routines, enjoying the journey without concern. The calm weather became part of the experience, adding to the overall comfort and enjoyment of the voyage. As evening turned into night, the temperature dropped further, creating a cold but still environment that felt almost frozen in time. The air was crisp, and the stillness of the ocean added to the quiet atmosphere. It was a night that many would later describe as unusually calm, almost eerily so, as if the natural world itself had settled into a state of complete stillness. For the crew, these conditions required careful attention, even if they did not appear dangerous at first. The lack of wind and waves meant that traditional methods of detecting hazards were less effective, and the darkness of the ocean's surface made it harder to identify objects ahead. Despite these challenges, the overall impression remained that the situation was under control. The cold temperature also played a critical role in the events that followed. It contributed to the presence of ice in the water, increasing the likelihood of encountering icebergs. While warnings about ice had been received, the calm and clear conditions may have influenced how these warnings were perceived, as there were no immediate signs of danger visible to the eye. Looking back, the weather conditions on Titanic's final day can be understood as a combination of factors that, while individually harmless, came together to create a situation that was more complex than it appeared. The calm sea removed visual cues, the clear sky created contrast, and the cold temperature increased the presence of ice, all contributing to an environment where danger was not as easily detected. What makes this story so compelling is the contrast between perception and reality. To those on board, the weather felt safe, even ideal. It provided comfort, stability, and a sense of control. Yet, beneath this calm surface, there were elements that would influence the course of events in ways that were not immediately obvious. More than a century later, these conditions are still studied and discussed, not only as part of the Titanic's story but also as an example of how environmental factors can impact human decisions and outcomes. They remind us that even the most peaceful situations can carry hidden risks, and that understanding those risks requires careful observation and awareness. In the end, the weather conditions on Titanic's final day were not dramatic or extreme, but rather subtle and deceptive, creating an environment where everything appeared normal while important warning signs remained hidden. It is this subtlety that makes the story so powerful, showing how even small factors can have a significant impact when combined in the right way. The Titanic's journey is often remembered for its tragic end, but the conditions leading up to that moment are equally important, providing insight into how and why events unfolded as they did. The calm, clear, and cold weather of that final day remains a key part of this story, a reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers are not the ones we can easily see, but the ones that remain hidden beneath the surface.